This is Real News Media TV, coverage you can trust. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates. Good night, my Real News Media TV family. Welcome back to the channel for another news update for December 17, 2022. And in the news tonight, a woman chopped to death in Bull Bay. Police are seeking a man who allegedly chopped his 42-year-old partner to death and wounded a woman who had attempted to intervene. The incident happened in Bull Bay, St. Andrew at about 8:30 p.m. on Friday night. The deceased has been identified as Sonia Campbell of Virgin Gully in Bull Bay. Reports are that Campbell was at home when she got into a dispute with her common-law partner. The man allegedly began chopping her all over her body. Another woman who was in Campbell's home attempted to intervene and was chopped as well. Both women were taken to hospital, where Campbell was pronounced dead and the other woman admitted. The man is reportedly on the run. Police probing multi-million-dollar cooking gas heist caught among 2 arrested so far. The St. Catherine police are probing a robbery in which millions of dollars worth of cooking oil was stolen from a delivery truck on Saturday morning. The Spanish Town police have so far taken 2 suspects into custody in connection with the incident. It has been reported that a truck which was carrying products from Separate Limited was traveling along the Spanish Town bypass about 9 a.m. when the heist was made. 2 men in vests marked the police stopped the truck, and the vehicle was commandeered to the Thetford area near Old Harbor. There, the truck was emptied and the driver and the 2 side men were tied up inside the truck. The victims managed to free themselves, escaped from the vehicle, and made a report. An operation was launched and a Honda Fit motor car, said to be part of the robbery, was seized. Further operations resulted in the arrest of 2 suspects, one a serving member of the Jamaica Constabulary Force. The goods have still not yet been recovered. Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director of the Separate Group, Richard Pandowi, confirmed the robbery. I understand that the suspects have been held and the truck was recovered, and the workers are all right so far, Pandowi said. Man killed and brother injured in shooting after leaving wake. 2 brothers were shot, one fatally on Friday morning when they were attacked by gunmen after leaving a 990 in Iron River, St. Andrew. When investigators reached the blood-soaked scene, more than 20 spent casings and bullet fragments were spread across the roadway where the injured men were found. The deceased has been identified as a 32-year-old Tafari Hilton, otherwise called Reds, a construction worker of a Slipe Road address in Kingston 5. The injured brother remains hospitalized. The news understands that Hilton is originally from a rural community in St. Andrew but had relocated to Kingston 5. Reports are that about 1 a.m., both men left the wake in Iron River and were riding motorcycles along the roadway when explosions were heard. The police were summoned, and upon their arrival, they discovered Hilton lying on the ground with gunshot wounds to the head. A resident told the news that the community is on tenterhooks as murders and shootings have become too frequent. It's because up here so is in the bush and the station is far away, the crime coming like it have we under bandage. The night we are going is for the youth we eat some food and feel bad and dead suddenly. So we never did expect murder for light, a member of the community said. The residents are hoping that there will not be a reprisal for the latest attack. Detectives assigned to the Content Spring Criminal Investigation Branch are probing the murder and the shooting. The latest crime statistics released by the police show the murders for 2022 in the St. Andrew North Police Division on par with last year. As at December 12, the division recorded 56 murders, the same as 2021 for the period under review. Shootings, break-ins, and injured person reports have increased, while rape and robberies are down in the division. The national murder tally stood at 1,442 on Monday, a 2.6% year-on-year increase. 2 persons of interest from Kingston West are now in custody. 2 of the 26 people listed as persons of interest by the Kingston Western Police in connection with the recent flare-up of violence in the division are now in custody. Lester Coke and his relative Raheem Coke this week surrendered to the police in the company of their attorneys. This was confirmed by Senior Superintendent Michael Phipps, commanding officer for the Kingston Western Police Division. He said the men will be questioned in relation to murders and the shootings in the division. The Kingston Western Police published the list of 26 2 weeks ago, claiming that the men, who are reportedly aligned to gangs in the division, were involved in the recent spate of murders and the shootings in downtown Kingston. The police and the military have been conducting a series of operations in search of the men under the state of emergency. SSP Phipps told the news that most of the men have fled the division. He said security has been heightened in the downtown commercial district to ensure the safety of shoppers and the vendors. 19-year-old is sentenced to 2 months imprisonment for stabbing friend with a screwdriver. A 19-year-old man on gun charges was sentenced to 2 months imprisonment on Tuesday for stabbing his friend with a screwdriver. Shakira Miller pleaded guilty to the charge of unlawful wounding after he appeared in the Kingston and the St. Andrew Parish Court. When Senior Parish Judge Lorian Cole Montague asked the complainant if he would like to be compensated for the injury, the man said no, despite admitting that Miller was among a group of people who ambushed him on his way home one evening. The complainant told the judge that it wasn't the accuser's fault. Turning to Miller, the judge asked if he has any other case, and he indicated he has an ongoing case for illegal possession of a firearm for which he is to return to court on January 16. Handing down the sentence, the judge told Miller he will be sentenced to 2 months in prison at hard labor. 28-year-old man gets a 6-month sentence after June housebreaking. A 28-year-old man was sentenced to 6 months imprisonment after he was accused of breaking into a woman's house in June. Kimo Vassell was charged with housebreaking with intent. However, he was initially unfit to plead because of his mental health. But on Tuesday, after receiving a report from a psychiatrist indicating that he was fit to plead, Senior Parish Judge at the Kingston and the St. Andrew Parish Court, Lorian Cole Montague, promptly had his plea registered. Before the sentence was handed down, Cole Montague was told that on June 13, Vassell broke into the house of the complainant, who was home at the time. Seeing Vassell, the complainant ran outside and called a neighbor, who went into the house to see Vassell with a machete. The police were contacted and Vassell was found inside one of the complainant's bedrooms hiding. Defending his actions, Vassell told the court that he had an altercation with his cousin over owed money and the cousin attacked him, which caused him to run into the complainant's yard. But according to him, because her dogs started rushing me, he ran into our house. "Me no give trouble," Vassell said, adding that he is a landscaper. After hearing his testimony, he was given 6 months in prison at hard labor. $700 million fire damage at New Budget Supplies Hardware. New Budget Supplies Hardware on Hagley Park Road in St. Andrew was extensively damaged by fire on Friday night. The fire, which started shortly before 9 o'clock, resulted in an estimated loss of $700 million. Emilio Ebanks, a public relations officer for the Jamaica Fire Brigade, told the news that fire investigators were still at the location trying to identify the cause of the blaze, which damaged the warehouse and offices. He said 56 firefighters were deployed in the effort to extinguish the blaze. No one was injured. In an interview with the news, the owner of the hardware store said the security guards who were on the property when the fire started reported that the blaze began in a storeroom. Mr. Dabdoob said the building was not insured as that process was still underway. He also disclosed that some of the approximately 50 employees might be out of a job following an assessment. Opposition leader Mark Golding says he is in support of the government's bid to access up to US $1.7 billion from the International Monetary Fund. Speaking with the news on Friday afternoon, Mr. Golding said he understands why the government would seek to take advantage of the facilities which recently became available. He pointed to Jamaica's US dollar debt that is maturing for payment over the next 24 months, admitting that if the government were to go into capital markets to borrow the money to pay off the debt, it would most likely have to do so at an interest rate that is higher than desirable.
The government has some US dollar debt that is maturing for payment over the next, as I understand it, 24 months. And with interest rates having been going up due to the central banks of the world trying to manage inflation and using interest rates as a tool to do that, if the government was to have to go into the capital markets to borrow the money, pay out the debt that is maturing, it would be probably at a rate that is higher than is desirable. So if the IMF is prepared to make these resources available to enable this refinancing to take place at what would be relatively low rates, it makes sense to do it. So I don't have a problem with that. You know, you're adding to the public debt by that borrowing. You're increasing the foreign-denominated public debt by that borrowing. And the question is, how efficiently will those resources be used? And, you know, how transparent will the deployment of those resources be? And what kind of benefits will the society derive from those projects? That remains to be seen. But certainly the refinancing portion of the borrowing, which I think is the bulk of it, I think makes commercial and financial sense.
Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates.